Hi, it's Ed, and welcome to NAED's Washington Wire, where we give you a look at what's going on in our nation's capital and what it means to your business. After the elections we had, where the House Republicans barely squeaked through with a 10-seat majority, really underperforming expectations, and the Senate Democrats managed to maintain their majority, slim as it might be. There's going to continue to be gridlock, partisan gridlock in the Congress, and for a lot of more business-minded members, that's not going to be a bad thing because the less they tend to do in DC, the better it is for most of us. However, there are some things that they did last year that I think we can take advantage of, and we'll close with that. But first, just a reminder of what we saw in November. House Republicans expected to gain probably 20 to 40 seats, anywhere in there. They ended up with a 10-seat majority in the House. And that was that underperforming continued to kind of roll out in this slow motion train wreck as Kevin McCarthy, who is sort of the anointed speaker in waiting, had to go through more than a dozen votes to eventually become Speaker of the House. It was interesting that he had already moved into the Speaker's office before all of that nonsense started. So obviously he's not going to enter that role in the most in the strongest way. He's going to have to prove himself to a fractious Congress, to a fractious caucus on the Republican side, and the Democrats will do plenty to undermine Republican unity. You can bet that. On the Senate side, the Democrats kind of overperformed marginally. There was a lot of folks that thought that Chuck Schumer would lose the Senate majority. However, they maintained that slim 51 seats. If you count the 3 now independent senators, it'll be caucusing with the Democrats. Add to that, there's a presidential election coming. And if you think about it, those first caucuses are going to be at the beginning of 2024, and it takes a while to spin up a presidential campaign. And a lot of senators think they can be president. So they'll be grandstanding and trying to position themselves for their presidential runs. So expect an even higher level of grandstanding from Congress. On the House Republican side, we expect to see investigations taking up a lot of space. Republicans have been waiting for this opportunity to really put a microscope on the Biden administration, and the Biden administration's handling of all these classified documents that seem to be popping up everywhere hasn't put them in the strongest position to fight back against some of those investigations. So expect a lot of that oxygen in the House to be taken up with investigations. Aside from that, the House Republicans do have a legislative agenda, but it's going to be focused mostly on immigration, cultural issues, and frankly, some of them are wanting to push back on government spending, which is kind of rich considering the way we spent when Republicans did have the House the last time. But hope springs eternal with these folks. They're going to continue to run that message out and see if anybody buys it. On the Senate side, Democrats are really going to focus on confirming judges. Again, with a 51-seat majority, the filibuster still exists for legislation. So the Democrats will be limited in what they can do without Republican votes. However, the changes that have happened to the filibuster rule regarding judges have put the Democrats in a great position to really work towards undoing the remaking of the federal judiciary that the Trump administration did, which the judiciary will probably be the most lasting of Trump's impact on the country. And so now the Democrats will be busily going about trying to undo that. You're also going to hear a lot this year about the debt ceiling. It's going to be an issue for the foreseeable future. The current debt ceiling is $31 trillion. The debt ceiling has more than doubled since 2010. In fact, it's up 120%. Now, during that same time period, U.S. gross domestic product is only up 50%. So we just keep borrowing, keep spending, and keep running up those deficits and adding to that debt. But you'll hear a lot of talk about defaulting on our sovereign debt, which has never happened in the history of the United States. And man, that would be a new low for us. I don't see it happening, despite all the hysteria you see in the news. Responsible heads, I'd say responsible heads will prevail and they'll raise the debt ceiling, but there's an open question as to whether continuing to raise the debt ceiling is responsible, but that's for another video. There have been some pretty consequential things that have already happened in the last year or two. Remember the bipartisan infrastructure law? There was $16 billion for electric vehicle charging infrastructure. By some estimates, there could be as much as $100 billion between government and private investment in electric vehicle charging infrastructure over the next 8 to 10 years. Huge opportunity. Whether or not you're a believer in the viability of electric vehicles as a long-term solution for our transportation in this country, the money has been approved and by the feds, and it's going to be spent. So you might as well get some work out of it, right? There was also the Inflation Reduction Act, which had $9 billion for residential electrification. And that includes upgrades to services to accommodate electric appliances and electric vehicle charging in the home. And also, they really increased the value of the commercial buildings tax deduction, which incentivizes energy efficient lighting. And they made it a little harder to claim that deduction than it's been in the past, but it's there. And there's a huge opportunity for us to take advantage of some of these government incentives. It's going to require us to think a little differently. You need to get to know your state energy offices. If you don't, let me know. If you don't know what a state energy office is, let me know. We can talk about it, and we'll help you navigate that landscape, get to know your utilities, get to see where this money is being spent, because it's going to be spent at the state level. The feds are parceling this stuff out over the course of 10 years. We expect it to be a little more front loaded. So huge opportunities thanks to that legislation. Again, love it or hate it, the money's going to be there, and you might as well take advantage of that. If you have any questions, you want to talk about any of these things, give me a call. You can reach my email at orlet@naed.org, and keep an eye out for these monthly Washington Wire newsletters and these accompanying videos. Always happy to help you keep in touch with what's happening in Washington. And if you ever want to reach out to your members of Congress, we're happy to help you with that too. Just give me a call and we'll talk about things. Thanks for watching this time, and thanks for supporting NAED.